This development mean for the fight against ISIS and the fight here in Washington about how to take the terror group on? Illinois Senator Mark Kirk joins us now here on set. Senator, thanks for joining us. A lot's happened in this past week. Al-Qaeda and ISIS have announced a merger of some sort. We have this latest beheading video, another mention from al-Baghdadi about the United States. We're now a couple of months into President Obama's campaign against ISIS, if you want to call it that. Is it working?
No. Leland, I would say for every scalp that ISIS takes, the president should send another squadron to bomb ISIS.
Okay, I want to read a quote here from Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. This is the leader of ISIS who put out this just in the past couple of days, one of his latest videos. America and its allies are terrified, weak, and powerless. And due to their fear and weakness, they are unable to send ground forces to fight the Mujahideen. And between this fear, weakness, and powerlessness, we see them stumbling in failure. That is the leader of ISIS, I want to say somewhere between mocking and daring the United States. What does that say about America's position in the world in this fight?
You know, right now, the president is only authorizing 5 to 7 sorties a day. If we look at this campaign compared to Kosovo, that was 2,000 sorties a day. We need a much higher op-tempo combat operations against ISIS.
You've had a lot of experience as a Navy intelligence officer in this. Is what we're doing against ISIS a comprehensive strategy, or is this sort of, we need to do something so we're going to say that we're doing something without doing enough?
This is almost just an air show over Kurdistan. I would say at 5 to 7 sorties a day, you're not really affecting the battle space enough.
And by 5 to 7 sorties, you mean 5 to 7 flights a day?
Flights with weapons on the hard points and being dropped.
It's not exactly the shock and awe we've seen in the past from the U.S. military. I want to transition here from what we've been talking about as it relates to ISIS. And many say that's the tactical issue facing the United States in the Middle East. The strategic threat, a lot of folks will tell you, is Iran, something that you've worked a lot on in terms of the Kirk Menendez bill that's in the Senate right now, and really trying to force the White House's hands to get much tougher with Iran. We know the November 24th deadline is coming up for the deal with Iran, the temporary deal to expire, for the White House to get a full deal. Ben Rhodes has talked about going around Congress to possibly get this deal. Are you worried in terms that the White House is just going to give away the House, proverbially?
I'm worried now that they've talked about a deal in which they simply disconnect the uranium cascades and leave them in place in Iran to make more weapons. There's a bottom line here. With the current administration policy, we're sending the next generation of Americans to witnessing a nuclear war in the Middle East. The president should not pass that on to his successors. That is an awful future for Americans.
The president may not believe you, but the prime minister of Israel certainly does. He was on Face the Nation earlier today. Take a listen.
Iran is not your ally. Iran is not your friend. Iran is your enemy. The alternative to a bad deal is not war. The alternative to a bad deal are more sanctions, tougher sanctions that will make Iran dismantle its capacity to make nuclear bombs. Your response to the prime minister?
He is exactly correct. We have learned from the 1930s that strength by the West is a better policy that leads to less conflict, that if you give dictators what they want. I would say in the case of Iranian human rights, they are not executing people at an unprecedented rate, up to 800 now. In the case of this regime, if you show weakness, they will push the United States as far as possible. You make war actually much more likely.
In that sense, quickly, do you think the Iranians are looking at our strategy against ISIS and that's giving them a little bit of free will to do what they want?
I would say they're looking at 5 to 7 sorties a day and thinking that's not much.
Well, and obviously that may prove to be formative at the negotiating table, an important point. Right. Senator, we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. And now back to the issue of ISIS. We want to know what you think about the same questions we just asked the